making his presence known ever since. There are a few of these decks at the top tables. This deck is definitely here to stay, as is Treasure Cruise, I think. And it looks like we're off with the white-bordered Gitaxian Probe. Ah, beautiful. And Matthew's going to reveal his hand, and we're going to see Lightning Bolt, Monastery Swift Spear, 2 copies of Brainstorm, and 3 lands, it looks like.
And this matchup typically not good for Storm, just because beating a clock plus soft permission very challenging to do.
Yeah, Brad Nelson was saying to me earlier that he actually feels like the combo match, like as a combo player, the matchup has gotten better with Delver since they have added Treasure Cruise, because they've had to trim interaction to do that. And it looks like Eddie Song, after he takes a peek, gets a shot at those Brainstorms if he'd like one. Gonna play Cabal Therapy, and not quite positive what he's naming yet.
I guess there is an argument here to take Matthew's only source of pressure here, but 2 Brainstorms, pretty juicy, and I think Edward makes the same determination.
Yeah. I said earlier there were 3 lands. There's actually 2 lands and a probe of his own in Matthew's hand, but leaving him with just that probe as a means of cantripping is pretty effective.
And Matthew's or Edward rather, has to be pretty stoked with the hand that he saw there, as no force of will, not even a daze.
Yeah, and Matthew gonna fire off a probe of his own and see basically if he's dead. We see 2 Infernal Tutors, 2 Lotus Petals, and a Tendrils. So I'm not quite sure if that is just a yes, I can kill you hand or not. I feel like it is not.
It is not, no, because he can't get empty-handed at this point.
Okay.
So the Infernal Tutors aren't very efficient for the time being.
All right, Monastery Swift Spear are going to come in for 2, thanks to that Gitaxian Probe.
I think this was a slight error by Matthew there. I think I would have let off with a fetch land there and gotten a Volcanic before doing all of this. So if he drew Daze, he would have Daze at the ready.
Sure. Yeah, okay. So kind of gives away the possibility of Daze. Eddie knows there was no Force of Will in the hand when he last looked. So it basically would have to have found Force of Will with the draw step and then blue card with the probe draw.
Exactly.
Maybe not in that order, but
I doubt Edward is going to respect the possibility of Force of Will at this point, and I believe he's drawn Lion's Eye Diamond,
which is huge. So that, I believe, actually opens up the possibility of a win right here. Eddie is doing the same math, I think.
Well, the fact that the Tendrils is no longer is not in his deck as a tutor target adds a bit of complexity to it, because he has to go off through Past in Flames.
Oh, sure. Yeah, looking at Eddie's list, he does have the 1 Past in Flames. He has 1 Ad Nauseam, so he could Ad Nauseam looking for another tutor or for the Past in Flames. That seems worse.
So he has a Burning Wish in his deck here, and a Tendrils in his sideboard, so he can go through that route.
Okay. So we'll see if that is what he's going to do. Going to lay Lotus Petal. No second land, but Lotus Petal works as such here. Fire off an Infernal Tutor. Still with cards in hand, but so he's going to get a duplicate copy of Lion's Eye Diamond.
And this may set him on the course to try to go off next turn if he's feeling so inclined, as he can play the Petal in hand, or actually just hold everything for the time being.
Yeah.
Untap, play the Petal, the 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, cast the Infernal Tutor, in response, sack the Lion's Eye Diamonds, and go.
And we'll see if Matthew can find a way to interact. Looks like he did not. No recourse, but to send in for 1. Okay, make that 2, because he's going to throw a Lightning Bolt to the face. Eddie going to follow 13 from the Lightning Bolt, down to 11 after combat. Matthew Warren still with the shields down. Looks like just a Lightning Bolt and lands in hand.
I think Matthew here not bolting the second time here to try to get Edward to respect the possibility that he drew Spell Pierce, something along those lines, because if Edward just goes for it, Matthew has no defense right now.
Yeah, now that he knows there are 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds in Eddie's hand, you've got to assume the worst. And we're going to continue doing the math here. It looks like Dark Ritual was the draw, so Edward has access to 4 mana other than the 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds.
The issue here is Edward definitely has the tools to win. And I think what he's going through right now is there a way for me to beat Force of Will in the event that that's what Matthew has drawn in the intervening turns?
Okay.
I believe the answer is no, because he has no redundancy to the Infernal Tutor in hand. The rest of his hand is just mana and the Tendrils.
Sure. Yeah, and of course, if Matthew did have Force of Will, then he would presumably counter the Infernal Tutor after Lion's Eye Diamond had already been cracked, which would leave Edward without a hand.
Yep.
But he is going to go for it. Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal down and in play.
And I think now Edward knows the coast is clear because most certainly Matthew would have spell pierced the Dark Ritual if he was able to do so.
Sure, okay. Because that would have kept him from being able to activate Lion's Eye Diamond with 2 mana.
Exactly.
Last Infernal Tutor.
So he can't be 100% sure, but he's got to be as close to 100% as he can be.
Sure. And as it is, Edward now sees the coast was clear. Plays both Lion's Eye Diamonds. Plays in Infernal Tutor. Cracks the LEDs in response. Not positive what's in the pool here. One assumes 3 red, the rest black.
Yep.
Which would add up to 4 black, I believe. And we'll see what the tutor target is, presumably Past in Flames. That would allow him to recast Dark Ritual and then Tendrils of Agony. Which
you can also Infernal Tutor for, say, a Dark Ritual.
Just to make sure the coast is clear. Of course, he can also, once that Past in Flames resolves, he can actually just probe and see that the coast is clear.
Yeah.
So Eddie doing the final checks here. I feel like you're committed at this point.
Well, yes. Once your hand's discarded, there's no going back.
Yeah. Well, once the tutor is resolving. But I guess just counting up, making sure. Okay, this does count up to 20, right? Well, in this case, it only needs to add up to 18. So just making sure the storm count is there. He can get there. We can see that from this graveyard. But it's worthwhile to take the time and make sure you don't miss sequence.
Exactly.
So it looks like storm count is 6 with that Past in Flames on the stack. And
so there's easily enough gas here at Edward's graveyard to go ahead and Tendrils. He only also needs to do it for 18 because of the damage that Matthew's taken as well.
So Dark Ritual, storm count 7. 1 more spell plus Tendrils will do it. Gonna go for a tutor. So, okay. Gonna get a 3rd Lion's Eye Diamond just to bolster the mana count. To be fair, we don't actually know what the mana count is, so he may have needed that mana.
Yep.
But
the Lion's Eye Diamond is +1, so if he was short 1, there you go. But we know Matthew has no defense, and so Edward Song quickly up a game.
Up a game, representing the white bordered menace.
Yes. So Edward's sideboard, you got it. Probably a lot of it is built in with Burning Wish targets, which makes sideboard difficult.
Yeah,
What's he got to bring?
So he only has 2 Burning Wish in the main, so it's kind of half and half here. Of his Burning Wish targets, he has 1 Pyroclasm, 1 Tendrils of Agony, 1 Massacre, 1 Duress, 1 Empty the Warrens, 1 Past in Flames, and 1 Void Snare. I don't expect, of course, him to bring in any of those because he wants them for Burning Wish.
Well, possibly Duress comes in if he just wants to be a little more redundant with this card.
True.
You could see Duress as a card. I'll never wish for this, but I wouldn't mind drawing one over the course of a game.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess in this matchup, if you're resolving Burning Wish, then you're not really worried about what's in their opponent's hat anymore. Other than that, 2 Dread of Night, that doesn't really do anything here. 3 Abrupt Decay, that has targets, but I'm not sure answering Matthew's Clock is the game you want to be playing. And then 2 Xantid Swarm, which I fully expect him to bring in.
So on Matthew's side of the table here, 2 Flusterstorm, an Electrickery, 2 Forkbolt, 3 Pyroblast, 2 Smash Smithereens, a Vidalian Click, 3 copies of Surgical Extraction, and a Sulfuric Vortex. I think that the copies of Pyroblast are excellent here, the Vidalian Click, and I think the 3 Surgical Extractions come in. I don't know if he wants all 3, but I think Surgical Extraction does do some work, though it is worse against Edward's build because he has the ability to Burning Wish for targets.
How do you feel about Electrickery? This is in theory an Empty the Warrens deck, which, well, we know that Eddie has 1 in his sideboard.
Well, I think I suspect it's too narrow. And he's got a lot of anti-combo cards to bring in as well. 2 Flusterstorms that I glossed over there initially. So a lot to bring in. I would be surprised if he had room for something as narrow as Electrickery.
Okay.
It does answer Empty the Warrens, and if he's suspecting Xantid Swarm, then maybe it's fine.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's an answer to that as well. Yeah.
It feels narrow to me. This deck is all juice. You know what I mean? Everything is a counterspell, a cantrip, or one of his few threats. So I think it's hard to make room for a lot of these cards.
Yeah. So Matthew Warrens' main deck is almost strictly proactive, except for the Dazes and Force of Wills. There's basically just creatures, cantrips, burn spells, and then 4 days for Force of Will.
Which makes a lot of sense because when you're playing with Treasure Cruise, you just want to be able to cast stuff. You don't want to be sitting on a bunch of reactive cards. And you also want to just be drawing into more proactive stuff. So Treasure Cruise means it's harder to play with a lot of counterspells or a lot of reactive cards in general.
Yeah, and it's a pretty dramatic gear shift, I think, going into the post-board games. Because, these Flusterstorms, those are surely coming in. 3 Surgical Extraction, that's a lot for this matchup, but I think we still want some of them. We mentioned, the 1 Electricity, some number of Pyroblasts, perhaps.
Yep.
I mentioned, his main deck, almost fully proactive, and then the sideboard completely full of reactive cards.
Exactly. So I think the easiest thing to do is identify what are the cards that are kind of flex slots. I would say the 4 bolts, the 4th bolt, and the mutagenic growth are non-essential elements of this matchup. That gives us 6 slots. So that's 2 Flusterstorms, 3 Pyroblasts, 1 Vendilion Click. And then any surgical extractions you want to brings in comes at the expense of a counterspell, a treasure cruise. Now maybe at least one of the treasure cruises can come out in this matchup because the games can be over very fast. But I think that bringing in all 3 surgicals would be a mistake. But I would probably want more than 0.
Yeah, I think so as well. Take a look at our opening hands here. I did not see a land in Eddie's opening hand. That doesn't necessarily mean his hand is not keepable. I see Lion's Eye Diamonds, Gataxian Probes, Brainstorms, Duresses. Looks like he is going to keep it. No, okay. Going to send it back.
Just checking to see if it was a land on top. His first 2 draw steps were not. And so Edward does the old peek, and it looks good for him.
Yeah, that would have been a close call either way. I'm not opposed to keeping the old zero lander every now and then.
If they had a Gataxian Probe.
Yeah.
Plus a draw step, it's already an 8-card hand. You know?
We had the redraw.
9-card hand, in fact.
Yeah. Over on Matthew's side, looks like he is keeping.
Really solid hand. Delver of Secrets, 2 Dazes, and a Brainstorm, I believe.
Yeah. Now, in Matthew's deck, we kind of glossed over this. You mentioned these were the cards that we can probably cut in the matchup. 1 Mutagenic Growth. And as soon as we saw the list, I remember you pointed out this is sweet, and I fully agree that it is. But this is not a card that we really see in Legacy, period. This is not an effect that you would expect to see in a Legacy deck outside of something like Infect.
Right.
So, what kind of changes do you think has happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks that would prompt something like this?
Trying to, I mean, more 0 mana stuff is always good. It looks like it's basically one of the 4th bolt / chain lightning slots gets cut. Free spells are always nice with Treasure Cruise. Plays very well with Monastery Swift Spear and Pyromancer, Delver of Secrets, and I think there's a lot of value to just being surprising with these kind of decks.
Okay, fair. I guess with Monastery Swift Spear in particular, that's an effect that you want to be able to cast spells at instant speed that people don't see. That's a threat whose size is variable generally. It's
hard for Swift Spear to play over the top of Lightning Bolt. It's 2 spells that you need to be able to play at instant speed. Not the easiest thing to do. Mutagenic Growth makes it very easy.
Okay. It looks like we are off Volcanic Island into Delver of Secrets for Matthew.
I'm of the opinion that any free Phyrexian mana spell with reasonable utility is just completely busted.
Sure.
It's not even close to okay. So I'm never going to look down on someone playing a Mutagenic Growth or a Gut Shot or whatever.
Yeah, certainly not looking down on. I agree with you that this is sweet. This is a powerful effect. Basically, anything that is free in Magic is just a sneeze away from broken.
Especially in Legacy when the games are over so fast.
Mm-hmm. So Eddie searching up a land. I did not catch a glimpse of his 6, so remains to be seen if he is going to go for the full gusto or if we're just going to play a more traditional cantrips and thought seizes type game. Or duresses, as it were. But it looks like duress is the play. And Matthew has days, so is not going to give up the information of his hand.
Also, the most valuable card in his hand right now is that Brainstorm, I feel like, because he's very land heavy, and he wants to be able to Brainstorm and then shuffle away some extra lands, so I would not want to have that get discarded.
Okay. Delver of Secret's going to flip over to Insectile Aberration immediately, revealing Flusterstorm.
Yeah, this game is big game. This game is getting off to a very tough start here for Edward.
So Infernal Tutor on turn 2. Again, the hand is still full, so we are just duplicating a card already in the hand. But it's not going to resolve anyway. Matthew Warnes uses the second daze. So no lands in play, just 3/2 beaters. Eddie's going to pass right back. And
still no interest in brainstorming, which was a little surprising to me because it seemed like he had the type of hand where he could have brainstormed, put out some lands, and then shuffled away at least one of them.
Yeah. So the Insectile Aberration is going to come swinging. Edward falls to 13. And now the choice. Well, no choice really. We could cast Ponder, or we could leave up Flusterstorm. Looks like he's just going to leave up Flusterstorm. Ships back to Eddie, who goes for a Ponder of his own. Takes a peek at Burning Wish, Therapy, and I believe Duress. No, another Therapy. It's harder to identify cards in hand when they're all whiteboarded.
Yes. It's definitely a trick on the eyes.
So he's going to keep, and I believe added that Therapy to his hand. And now faces the tough decision of what to name. Although he does know about Flusterstorm.
Flusterstorm is probably the hardest card for him to go off in the face of, and he knows it's there.
Yeah.
So.
It's a pretty easy name. Matthew can hide it with Brainstorm. This is what I fully expect him to do. Yeah, and there we go. Brainstorm. Could have actually just Flusterstormed it, I suppose, but that doesn't really get you anywhere.
Well, if he hides back the Flusterstorm that Edward knows about, then Edward is sort of clawing around blind with this Therapy.
That is true.
So you may get the best of both worlds, where your Flusterstorm's safe and Edward just outright misses with the Cabal Therapy.
And so we did see him tuck that Flusterstorm back and reveals, looks like Probe, Ponder, Swift Spear, and lands. Now we're not actually positive that Edward did name Flusterstorm, because once the Brainstorm resolves, it may make sense to name something else.
Correct. Force of Will might be a good name in that spot, for example.
Force of Will also would have missed, as it turns out, but one assumes that he did not name Ponder or Probe or Swift Spear.
Well, there is an argument once your opponent brainstorms away to know, well, I know they're hiding a Therapy. They're hiding a Flusterstorm. They're hiding one of their spells. So what's a mid-tier spell that could be in their hand?
Okay.
Something that is reasonable for them to have in hand, but not so good
that they would hide it.
And Ponder is not a bad guess.
True.
If that's the type of metric you're using.
Yeah, that is a reasonable name here. We just got the confirmation. Edward actually named Force of Will.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair one. Maybe that's basically the next best card, other than Flusterstorm, which you knew about.
Correct.
The card you care about the most after that is Force of Will, I think. So the Therapy whiffed, and Edward now sizing up Matthew's hand. The shields are down right now.
Yes,
so,
he can go make a move here.
Yeah. So basically just counting up, looking at his hand, seeing what he can do. And his hand is basically all mana, except for that Infernal Tutor. So you can go Lotus Petal. There's a fourth card in there. I'm not sure. I believe it's a Dark Ritual. I know he has Cabal Ritual, Lotus Petal, and Infernal Tutor.
Yep.
And if the fourth card was a Dark Ritual, which I believe it was, he actually had the option to go for an Infernal Tutor with 2 black mana up. But that doesn't get him anywhere.
Exactly. And it's tough because Matthew's hand is so cantrip dense that whatever he's hiding down there, he'll be able to get to in this turn between his draw step and the cantrips.
Yeah. And there is the hand. Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Infernal Tutor. Matthew gonna stick that Swift Spear before going for the probe. Get a little extra damage in. Now threatening to attack for 5, and going to draw the Flusterstorm we know about, and we'll have the land up. So
all sorts of trouble for Edward.
Yeah.
This is the Delver game plan here that combo decks struggle with so much.
Finds another probe off of that probe. Fires it off immediately. It's a little bit of extra damage there. And finds Polluted Delta, cracks it. He drew Treasure Cruise, actually, off of the second probe. So Matthew might get real greedy here.
I think I would just hold up Flusterstorm. It's really greedy to Treasure Cruise here.
Yeah, I agree.
If he doesn't find Daze or Force of Will, again, shields are down. Edward's in a position where he has to go for it regardless because it's only going to get worse for him.
So currently the attack is for 6. And there he goes. 3/4 Monastery Swift Spear, 3/2 Insectile Aberration. Eddie gonna fall to 7. And yeah, passes the turn.
I love this discipline from Matthew because next turn between Treasure Cruise and Ponder, you can probably cobble together a kill regardless.
Yeah. It does take discipline not to cast a Treasure Cruise.
Yep.
I mean, there's winning the match and then there's casting Treasure Cruise, right?
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm not sure which one I want more.
And you can't take it with you, you know? When the game's
Sure.
over, that's it.
Yeah. All you're going to have when the match is over is all the Treasure Cruises you didn't cast.
And that's the only memory you'll take from any of these games. Like a running list of regrets, you know?
That may be the best metric yet for whether or not a card should be banned in an Eternal format. is, would you rather cast that card than win?
Exactly. I won, but there was a Jace in my hand when the game ended, and it just wasn't that satisfying.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. So Eddie, again, knows that, well, has to assume that there's a Flusterstorm. I guess it's possible that it...
No, because he didn't shuffle in between the time.
Yeah.
He knows it's there. It's 100%.
Absolutely. Knows there's a Flusterstorm he has to get around. So, has a second ritual. There's, I guess the possibility, his options here are basically making so much mana that he can pay for all the Flusterstorm copies.
This
is a tall order.
Well, given the circumstances here, I think all Edward is going to do is cast the stuff that's in his hand and try to go for it. He can't wait until next turn. He's probably dead.
True.
So,
yeah, he has to make a move this turn, for sure. It's a matter of sequencing, like which rituals do you cast in which order to give your opponent the fewest number of Flusterstorm copies when you cast your Infernal Tutor. And it looks like we have not arrived at the proper sequence just yet. Eddie also limited to just 1 black mana on the table. Yeah, he has a Lotus Petal as well. So if he holds the Lotus, well, actually Matthew knows about his hand too. So there's not really any disguising what black mana you have access to either.
Exactly.
Okay.
Everything is pretty much face up. Edward knows he has to beat or try to beat a Flusterstorm. Matthew knows the contents of Edward's hand, and we'll just see where we go.
Yep, and here we go. So that is a Cabal Ritual that is not thresholded. So it looks like 3 black mana in the pool. And that's an odd choice for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Especially when you have the opportunity to lead with Dark Ritual and then crack the Lotus Petal. That's threshold.
All right, and so Lotus Petal going to get cracked. That will actually make threshold, and then... Okay. And actually, did he cast the Cabal Ritual and then... No, okay, there's that second Cabal Ritual already there. So this one is on the stack. It is thresholded. And I believe, and it looks like there are 2 black mana in the pool, and the storm count is currently 3.
Yep.
And now Matthew has to make some decisions. He can Flusterstorm this ritual. He would require Eddie to pay 3. He currently has 2 mana in the pool. And he does have a Dark Ritual in his hand, which Matthew does know about.
Yep.
So pulling the trigger here actually doesn't stop Eddie, I don't think. Eddie basically casts Dark Ritual in response, goes up to 4 black mana, spends 3 of those 4 to pay for the Flusterstorm copies, and then the ritual resolves, the Cabal Ritual resolves. He would then have 6 black mana and could cast Infernal Tutor for Tendrils with 4 mana up.
Just still feels like this is the fight you want to be picking right now. Seems
Right.
like only harm can come by allowing this Cabal Ritual to resolve.
Yes and no. I mean, like, the more spells Eddie casts, and he does have to cast 10 to win, the bigger your Flusterstorm gets.
Sure. But this Cabal Ritual resolving allows him to basically generate the mana, pay for all sorts of spells in theory.
Sure. It's a possibility that Matthew actually is just up a creek no matter what. 'Cause I don't think you can, again, I don't think you can win if you Flusterstorm here. I think Eddie can get around that. And Matthew may be coming to that same conclusion. And again, we're pretty sure Flusterstorm, the only thing that Matthew has to work with here.
Yeah, he has no other defense.
He did, yeah, we saw his draws. We know that the probe found probe, and then the second probe found treasure cruise. So yeah, that's what he's gonna have to lean on. And we see him counting it up again. This is it's definitely a tough spot.
Well, you mess up here and you might lose, and it looked like Matthew had a pretty firm block on this game.
Yeah, I agree. Well, he was almost certainly a turn away from winning, for one. But just didn't get to interact in meaningful enough ways. He did get to cast 2 dazes, but it looks like he's going to let the Cabal Therapy resolve, or sorry, the Cabal Ritual resolve. Dark Ritual going to come right behind, up to 9 black mana. Storm count should be 4. Yeah, Dark Ritual makes 4.
So then this Flusterstorm will be for 6.
Okay, so for 6 for the The Infernal Tutor makes 5, and then the Flusterstorm itself.
Yep.
So the physical copy of Flusterstorm, 5 copies, and Eddie had what, 7 mana in the pool?
Yeah, he'd be able to pay for it with 1 floating, which leaves him nowhere.
Just not enough.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like that was Eddie's plan, was basically hope that this Cabal Ritual is scary enough. And it turns out it wasn't.
Yeah, Matthew did not bite, and now we go on to game 3.
So we did not see any of the cards that we expected out of Eddie's sideboard. We did not see Xantid Swarm. We did not see, I don't say we expected, but we did not see Abrupt Decay. We did not see, well, of course we saw Duress, but there are many of those in the main deck. So unclear if Eddie actually sideboarded at all.
I'm not a big fan of Xantid Swarm in the matchup because, most likely Matthew has some bolts in the deck. So I wouldn't want to go to something like Xantid Swarm, which is not reliable. If it was something like Defense Grid, that would be a different conversation, but I think it's just too likely Matthew can pick off a Xantid Swarm.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you're not bringing in Xantid Swarm against the Delver decks, where are you bringing it in?
Something like Miracles or just decks with less removal. If you're playing against a deck like Sultai Delver, for example, they might be cutting their Abrupt Decay type cards against you, and then it's much more likely your Xantid Swarm matters.
Okay.
The odds that Matthew cuts his Lightning Bolts are much lower because they have some utility no matter what.
All right. It's basically just like Bolt plus blue cards is kind of the threshold where you say, whoa, maybe I don't want this.
I think so.
Maybe I'm better off with my main deck.
Also, his deck is not. Eddie's deck is not base green. It's cumbersome for him to go get a tropical island.
That is true.
So I would only want to bring in Xantid Swarm if I was sure it was going to be lights out.
Yeah, it looks like we have the 1 tropical island, 8 fetch lands to go and find it, 4 Delta and 4 Scalding Tarn. But it's a pretty tall order to get a land that only makes 1 color.
Yep.
When you are very land light, only 15 lands in Eddie's deck. You're also getting a non-basic land, which could be problematic against the Delver deck. I'm checking. Yeah, it looks like Matthew is not playing any wastelands.
The blue-red builds, the Monastery Swift Spears usually give away that there's no wastelands in the deck because these builds are so 1 mana spell centric that wastelands don't provide real mana.
Yeah, you're bottlenecked on colored mana. The blue-red builds traditionally have been leaning on either Blood Moon or Price of Progress as well. Matthew doesn't have access to either of those either. Yep. But that is a traditional tip-off. So yeah, like Eddie can maybe safely assume there are no wastelands, but he doesn't know for sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if Edward's best plan for this matchup was just to present his same 60 cards.
Sure.
I don't know if he can win by trying to kill Matthew's stuff with things like Abrupt Decay, and I just don't think Xantid Swarm's reliable enough.
Yeah, and there's very little wiggle room in these decks to begin with.
It's pure engine, so all of your cuts are painful. Yeah. None of them are easy.
Taking a look at our opening 7s, we see double Lion's Eye Diamond, some lands, some cantrips for Eddie. I think that is a keepable hand, and he agrees. Gonna fire off a turn 1 Brainstorm. Turn 1 main phase Brainstorm, which often spells trouble.
Yes.
That signals that we are some specific card away from just going for it.
This hand is legit, is what this means.
Yeah. As is I don't think the Brainstorm particularly helped him. It looks like he found another Brainstorm and 2 more lands.
Or his hand is daze-proof enough that he doesn't want Matthew to have the option to even daze that.
Okay. Speaking of, daze off the top for Matthew Warrens. Joins. Looking at the rest of his hand, I don't see a threat in there.
I think it's a young Pyromancer.
Okay. Gonna fire off a Ponder, though. Go looking for some more interaction. There is a young Pyromancer, or sorry, not a young Pyromancer. There is a young Monastery Swift Spear, in addition to a Force of Will.
I think Matthew would be hard-pressed to shuffle this one away.
I agree. The real question is, do you leave the Force of Will on top to draw? No, he does not. Going to draw the Monastery Swift Spear, leave the Force of Will safe from things like Cabal Therapy for this turn.
Exactly. It's the risk of, the odds that Edward can go off this turn through a daze are probably pretty low, and you don't want him to just go Duress or Cabal Therapy, named Force of Will.
Sure.
And then you lose your prize card, which is that Force of Will.
Yeah. And I certainly don't think that Eddie would play Therapy and name Daze here. Now, I may name Brainstorm. That could be problematic. But Eddie has to consider the options. He may just not Therapy at all and just go for the kill. Now, having said that, I don't believe there's a tutor in his hand.
Yeah, it's just a lot of mana, it looks like, the Therapy and a Brainstorm.
Yeah, that 2 lands, 3 Lion's Eye Diamonds, Therapy, and Brainstorm. And I believe he knows that one of the top cards of his deck is also a land.
Yeah.
So if he wants to actually go for it here, he would need to play that Delta and crack it, get a clean slate on top, and then peek at 3.
The alternative here is for Eddie to just play a land, brainstorm, improve his hand, and go on with life.
Sure. No. Well, it has the therapy. I think you were always going to therapy there too, actually.
Well, there's an argument for waiting on your therapy on until the turn you're about to go off, as long as mana isn't the choke point.
Sure. And it likely was not. If you name days, that would be quite impressive here. But no, names Force. We know that is the 8th card in this 7-card hand, hiding safe on top of Matthew's deck.
Which is the worst case scenario here for Eddie, because seeing that there's no Force of Will, usually in these spots, the Storm player doesn't have the luxury to play around Force of Will once they see it's not there. They're usually just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And if Eddie does exactly that, the Force of Will is going to be all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, and having said that, like, he now sees like the quote-unquote green light that Force of Will is not there, but those 2 dazes could easily be trouble enough that it holds him off for a couple of turns. Now, knowing that those 2 dazes are there, I don't think you go for this brainstorm either. I think you just ship it back and get some more lands in play.
Again, yeah, not a lot to be gained by going for it this turn, except for keeping Matthew off of Young Pyromancer for the next turn. So that seems like a small edge.
Yeah, and I don't think the Pyromancer matters that much. I mean, you need a clock, but the clock will get there one way or another.
And Swift Spear is also a clock.
Sure. He's considering it, though. We have not passed that turn just yet. Not the most action-heavy hand, of course.
Yeah.
Really just brainstorm or no. And Eddie riffling through him. Is he gonna fire it off? We are. I don't know. There may be some discussion going on of something else. Of course, we cannot see the whole thing, but looks like he is gonna go for that brainstorm. Well, maybe not. He's gonna crack a fetch.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know for sure if he is going to pull the trigger after that. We can see that that state championship medallion dangling off of Eddie there, just off, on the far side of the camera.
Yep.
I want to take this moment to call shenanigans here. That is not Eddie's medallion.
Really?
That is Ranjan Pradeep's medallion.
And he's wearing it in the feature match area.
Yes.
Unacceptable.
I agree.
It's a violation of the competitive spirit.
That's a foul play for sure. Okay, gonna go for one Lion's Eye Diamond, 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, 3 Lion's Eye Diamonds. I'm not sure what we're playing for here. What's the angle?
Okay, he's gonna brainstorm and just go for it with the coast is clear.
All right. So
if there's ad nauseum in here.
Wow, okay.
He's good to go.
This works. All right.
This is aggressive. I like this.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. So presumably like 6 black, 3 red or something like that. If he finds Past in Flames, Infernal Tutor, Burning Wish, Ad Nauseum, any of those I think are a game win here. But what he finds looks like another Brainstorm.
And I don't know if he has blue mana floating.
Yeah, we don't know what colors he made with it. Presumably he did, yeah. So probably 3 black, 3 blue, 3 red would be my guess.
This is exciting.
Yeah. I'm going to go for Ponder. We know he put 2 cards back, so if the bottom card there was a Burning Wish. All right. So had down to 8 mana off of this Ponder. If he keeps the Burning Wish, he can Burning Wish with 6 mana up. We can see in his sideboard a Past in Flames, an Empty the Warrens is probably good enough. The Tendrils, because I don't think he's. Yeah, we can see there the current storm count is 6. But okay, so he's gonna brainstorm and then take the Burning Wish, presumably.
Yeah, because he can do all this, assuming that he has the mana left over and not care about days.
Mm-hmm. Brainstorm, find Gataxian Probe, cast the Probe, find the Burning Wish, storm count 8. Yeah, the Burning Wish makes 8.
And by your count, this is 7 mana going down to 5.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually, if we just Burning Wish for Tendrils, we're still 1 short. I'm not really clear on what's going on here.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Any song.
Wow. Not bad. All right.
Some gutsy magic there.
Yeah, that was. I did not even.
That is some.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did not consider the possibility of just playing all your LEDs and just looking at 3 and seeing what happens.
Yeah, the play seemed so aggressive to me that it was not even something on my radar.
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
I would contemplate. He saw that the coast was as clear was going to get, pulled the trigger, and was able to find the right tools to win that game, playing exactly perfectly through days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like he saw the 2 days, and